Yeah, so I guess we don't know where Harry is. Where in the world is Harry San Diego? Harry San Diego.
I'm surprised you're back already. I thought you were coming back today.
You thought I would have gotten arrested at Oh Hell Airport for throwing a fit?
Well, you texted at like what, 4 o'clock yesterday that you were going to Open Gate. So I was like, oh, okay. So she's staying another night there.
No, we left Chicago at 8:20. We were delayed. Dude, like I have never seen the line for security that long. But to be fair, it moved and they weren't making you take off your shoes until they made me go through the metal detector. And I took off like every piece of clothing possible. And finally, the lady was like, I think it's your shoes. So I put the shoes through the conveyor. The conveyor pushed them out for some reason. The lady who's supposed to, whatever, take it to the back to detect for explosives was like, well, it got pushed out of the thing. I'm like, don't you have tools here? So they had to go all the way back there. I was like ready to lay an egg, dude. It was bad.
Did you get your shoes back?
Yeah, I was ready to.
Just
I
leave them.
literally, dude, I thought I was like, you know what? I'm gonna leave these shoes. I was like, I can't be walking through the airport barefoot.
You could do it.
Or could I? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that would fly in some place. It's been actually that would definitely fly at O'Hare.
Yeah. You would just have to watch your drinking after that. You couldn't be belligerent and with no shoes. You'd stick out like a sore thumb.
You gotta pick one.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like at the New Orleans airport, that's fine, but
Yeah.
let me give you an official BeerNet Radio welcome. So today I'd like to welcome to the show Chad Zeitner, co-founder of Montucky Cold Snacks, the value priced, for craft lager brand with those super colorful horse clad cans that I saw for the first time in Wyoming, and I was like, I gotta talk to these guys. So anyway, now you guys are about 1 million cases in just under, I think it's 40 states, and obviously a couple weeks ago we talked about you guys striking a partnership with Gallo, which is super interesting. As somebody told me, they didn't have that on their bingo cards. So welcome to the show, Chad. Would love to dig in more.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, so we have a wine and spirits publication as well, and our editor Sarah talked with Britt West, and I think he's kind of made the rounds. But we thought, hey, let's get the story from the beer guy, the guy on our side. And he talks about glowingly Montucky being a one of one brand, right? And the fact that they're kind of anchoring this malt route to market and that sort of thing. But what did you guys want out of a strategic partner, right? Like, and why did you want a strategic partner at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of always been something that's been in the back of our mind, the opportunities that something like this could present for us, that there's a lot of room we've always felt with what we could take and what we could do with Montucky and all the good we could do along the way.
Mhm.
And as you guys know, like, I mean, the Bev Alc space has been an interesting space
Mhm.
as of late. And so, the resources it really takes to break through and grow and scale something like that has been difficult. I mean, we've been doing really well, but like everything's on a shoestring and kind of done Montucky style. So, I feel like something like this really allows us to to put more gas on the fire, so to speak, and utilize the know-how of Gallo and the resources they bring to kind of bring Montucky to more folk.
Right, right, right. And I'm curious, right? Because, like you said, the Montucky way, right? And you guys are a little bit renegade and kind of off the cuff, and I mean, it's part of what makes the brand so great. And Gallo's a little bit more buttoned up. So, how do those cultures kind of mesh?
So far, honestly, there's been no change on that
No.
front. They're kind of letting us do our thing because they realize that a big part of the magic is how we've
Mhm.
always done things. So I'm sure there's going to be some changes and some, a little bit more rigid standards on some things here and there, which I think will benefit all of us, and we can learn a lot from some of those processes. But I mean, they're viewing this as like you we built the brand, like the brand is what it is because of what we've done, and they don't want to change any of that. So it's been pretty refreshing, just kind of seen it after, it was a little bit nerve wracking to your point, beforehand, you just don't know. But things they've been pretty hands off on that front and letting us do our thing. So I think they're just there to support it and help us figure out exactly what pieces we can do more of. And and go from there.
Yeah. And I wonder, like, you know, he's Brett's made some, or sorry, Britt has made some comments about like, knowing what a gem you guys are, and also, but wanting to play, not taking you up just to do nothing, right? So, how big are you guys looking to build this brand, right? And do you lose some of the specialness if you try to grow it too much?
That's the trick, right? I mean, I feel like the sky's the limit with what our brand is and the potential there. I feel like there's a lot in this space, a lot of runway. There hasn't been a lot of changes in the domestic premium space for a long time. And so like bringing something like this, that has that give back component, that has that, not I don't know, like that special sauce needs to stay there, and I think that's something we're going to be very cognizant about as we grow, and not trying to grow too quickly and lose that. But on the flip side, I mean, the potentials. I mean, when you look at it, pretty much limitless. You know where it could go and where it could be. I mean, I feel like I've always said this, but if you're staring between your typical domestic lager and ours, like all things considered or equal, like why wouldn't you go with ours? So I mean, the piece of the pie we could have that space, which is already enormous, could I mean, it's hard to even fathom.
Right, right, right. And then just one more for me, real quick, and then I'll pass it off to Jay. But to your point about like competing with the domestics, how are you? I mean, I know your pricing has been a little bit of a moving target, right? Where do you guys kind of want to be at a price point?
I mean, I feel like again the we're in that domestic premium,
Yeah, yeah.
and I feel like we offer a much better value for that than the other domestic premiums. I mean, obviously I'm fairly
A little
biased, but
biased to it.
yeah, a little bit, just a scotch. So I mean, I think we offer a lot of value in that front, and price. So from a price standpoint, if you're looking for that easy drinking lager, I mean, we should be part of that conversation,
Yeah, yeah.
in there
Makes
with
sense.
the Bud and Coors of the world.
Yep.
I think people forget or are unaware of like how much y'all have done with such a small team. I think when we met y'all several years ago at CBC, you had a team of under like 10 people. So how big is your workforce now, and how much bigger do you think it'll get as a result of, this partnership?
Well, I mean, I think right now, if you include Jeremy and I, we have 16 people on our team. And as far as like well, I mean, I guess now it's a lot bigger, but or the resources that we have access to is quite a bit larger. So I mean, it's to answer your question. I mean, I feel like the team's going to get bigger, and we're going to have a lot more resources, and that's super exciting. I mean, we're not going to have our team out there, one person trying to cover 4 states, and like handle the distributor ordering and the marketing and the everything else that goes along with it for 4 states. That's pretty hard to do and do well. They've done a great job, but like giving our team that extra support and they can focus in and do a much better job, I think is going to be awesome. So I mean, we're going to have a lot more support on that front. And you look at the chain side, I mean, we essentially have a chain team of zero. I mean, we outsource a little bit of that, but internally we don't have a chain person. Gallo has a team of 140, plus. So
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of additional resources on that front that frees up bandwidth. Our reps aren't going to be out there soliciting orders from our distributors or things like that, where like they can focus on not worrying about out of stocks and shipping lanes and things like that. They can really just hone in on what they do and what they do well. So we're
Yeah.
super excited about that.
Yeah, and you've mentioned, the resources that Gallo brings. Is there any like particular resource that you are looking forward to most, like in the short term?
I mean, for me personally, it's a lot of the logistics and operation side. So
Yeah.
it's kind of been my wheelhouse. Um, you know, from the days of doing it all with Jeremy and I to, kind of that's how, he's gone a little bit more on the marketing and I've gone a little more on the operation side. So I've never been the end all be all on that front. I mean, I've done okay, I would say. But having that resource and know-how and like figuring out how to get loads where they need to go and brew and keep everything right where it needs to be, without brewing too much or too little. All that eventually will kind of come off my plate, and I can do more of the fun stuff. So I mean, that's a personal or selfish kind of spin on it, but that's what I'm most excited about. The other side, I mean, there's just so many things on the nonprofit side, and the marketing side that we've shoestringed, from day one. It's kind of like, well, we can kind of do that, but we can't really, go all the way. So how about you take some beer and, I'll show up and volunteer at the event or whatever. So, being able to go a little bit bigger on those things and get a little bit more out of it and help the people we're working with along the way, I think it's going to be super exciting.
Yeah. Is the nonprofit some of the fun stuff you're talking about, or what is some of the other fun stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's my passion
Yeah.
in the world, kind of. And I mean, it works, and there's so many great nonprofits out there that do some amazing things that just pair perfectly with us. So, finding those and building those relationships and helping out where we can. And then, obviously there's super fun events as well. So kind of just being able to do those and go out into the market and hang out at all my favorite dive bars is, like that's,
Yeah.
and then not having to come home to, 1,000 emails that I've been neglecting and, having to dig out of. So I'm excited.
Well, I forget. I mean, you guys are still contract produced, right? That doesn't change with this at all from where you're produced, does it? Or
No, I mean,
okay.
right now we're not planning on any changes on that front. It's
Okay, cool. And then going back to the marketing and the nonprofit part, it's 8% to local charities, right? Or does it depend, the percentage depend on the market and that sort of thing?
No, I mean, that's how we've been running it.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of, we try and disperse it out into every little market we're in, and find those niche charities. And I mean, some of that is in flux as far as how we work it. We did start our own nonprofit that we kind of wanted to use as that arm to really facilitate that. And then, also work with a little bit more, or a couple more national partners, just to kind of help get that message or streamline that message. So some of that's still in the works, but we're always going to do that, the mom and pop, local, super local charities, because that's the fun stuff.
Nice. And I mean, that's your top marketing vehicle too, right? And probably your top marketing expense as well, right? Or how does that shake out?
Yeah, I mean, it could and should be. I don't know if I would call it our top, because I don't think we really talk about it as as much as we maybe could or should. It's one of those delicate things. You don't want to put too much, spotlight on it and make it come off as disingenuous either. So,
Sure.
but it's part of the core of who we are. We kind of feel like the can brings people in and like gets them to buy it that first time, but like who we are as a company keeps them coming back, and
Right.
that's a huge part of it. And I think that so that's how we've always viewed it. It doesn't necessarily need to have the spotlight, but it needs to be there.
Right. And talking about the can is so like, it's such a great can. And I mean, that's the marketing, is the can too, right? It's just so different. It's super colorful. You got this horse and you're like, what is this? It's just like rainbows and fun. But it's also a good bar call now because of that, right? And so curious, are you guys seeing growth in the on-premise, even though you don't do draft, I don't believe, right? Or just in Colorado, I think, or
No, we don't even do it in Colorado anymore.
okay.
It's just the can speak so much to who and what we are, and it's just so iconic sitting on the bar top. And so I mean, yeah, we're seeing a lot of growth still in on-premise, and independence is kind of where our bread and butter's always been. We don't anticipate that changing. We're just augmenting it with more chain presence is the ideal path for us.
Mm-hmm. But and you kind of mentioned earlier having a partner, because it's tough in Bev right now, right? Like I was just at a couple of meetings in Chicago, and everybody's a little bit concerned about like recent scan data that's come in for beer. And so I'm just curious, generally, like from y'all's company and the larger Bev universe, what are you seeing? Like, is everything we're hearing about people drinking less, and especially beer drinkers, them losing tons of share? Is it true, or how are you seeing it?
I mean, it's really tough to to you know distill out. I feel like there's a little bit of that. People are a little bit more health conscious. They're a little bit more cognizant. I don't think it's really hit us as hard as some others because we're such a light, easy, sessionable beer. That's played well to this kind of moment we're in, I guess if you want to
Mhm.
call it that. So but I mean, yeah, you'd be lying if I said I don't see it. I talk to friends all the time that are like, I wish you guys made an NA or, some of that kind of stuff. So, um, but again, I think there's just so many options out there. And I think when we talked last time, it's like you go in the beer aisle and you just see 200 different varieties and
Right.
things, and you're just kind of like, what, you just don't, you kind of go into shock. And so I think that will settle out and kind of there'll be a new normal of some sort. And I think it'll be easier to kind of tease out what is real and what isn't. What is people just changing what they drink and where they drink versus, if they drink. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, just one more for me and then I'll kick it back to Jay. But do you think, it is interesting that Gallo chose a beer brand, right? Do you think that you guys will be their only beer brand for the foreseeable future? Or what's your read on that?
I mean, I feel like we're the ideal flagship
Yeah.
for a company specifically like Gallo. Just with I don't know the breadth of play and where we work and where I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there. So I mean, I can't speak for Gallo, but I think there's just so much runway with a brand like ours that if they do additional beer, I think it'll be a while. I don't know on
Yeah.
that,
Right.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean, I
there's
would,
a lot we bring.
yeah, I would think they would do maybe malt RTD, but
Yeah,
so just curious.
I'm sure they'll be doing some of that kind of stuff. Standing up a whole malt network, they're going
Yeah.
to want to make it efficient. So,
Right. That
um,
makes sense.
but as far as beer goes, I is they've not made me aware of any plans for additional beer.
Yeah.
And they've definitely committed to the resources to make us, what we think we could be.
We were talking about the can and on premise, and I've seen a beer and a shot combo for Montucky, quite a bit down here in Texas, and I know y'all, done some little like promos with certain spirits brands. Is there a spirits brand? I know Gallo's still building that out, but do you see one that y'all could partner with? And are you trying to get Brett to, hey, find one so we can push, a double in the on premise?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the short answer is yes. We've actually even before this deal, we've done a few like with like Pink Whitney and a few things like that. Um, it's not as common or like of a shot beer special, but I think there's a lot of opportunity there and synergies. And I mean, we could do some fun things with call it a happy meal or donate
Right.
every happy meal that's been ordered, a beer and a shot, we donate a portion to a charity or something like that. I mean, when you have that synergies in house on that front, I mean, I feel like there's just
And y'all had a push into Beyond Beer before with Seltzer. Does this change at all as a result of this partnership? Do you want to keep looking there, or do you think, well, the company's kind of got that space covered and we can just stick to beer?
I mean, I feel like there's there's a lot of possibilities there. I feel like with what we would bring to the table outside of beer, I'm not going to ever say no. I mean, I think personally, I loved our seltzer. We just didn't have the resources and ability to dedicate to it. And we just felt it was just detracting from our core product that we barely could focus on as is. With the staff we had. So that was kind of the reason we pulled back on the seltzer. But it was growing, it was doing well. So I mean, would I like to see it back maybe at some point? But again, I think there's just so much runway with our beer as is that I don't see it happening anytime soon. but that's the exciting thing is, I mean, we're going to have that ability to kind of in the background be working on some of these things that we can pull the trigger on when it makes sense, like, I feel like an NA, things that play in that same snackable, sessionable, easy drinking, we don't want to complicate the brand and the SKU. So it's got to all kind of flow together and keep that simplicity. So kind of making sure we do that in the right way. We're not going to move fast on anything. But we'll get a play in the background, which will be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the fact that you guys only have a few SKUs, I think, has definitely helped you, right? Would you say that you've kept it tight? Like wholesalers certainly like that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's all we could really handle. I mean, on the logistics side and everything else, trying to plan for inventory of anything else would be difficult for us. But like now, that's not going to be, the hold up. So.
Right. And I can't, did we talk about this, Chad? Now that you're with Gallo and you even said they have their own malt network and in some places there's overlap, but where you're not yet, like the 10 states that you're not in, can we expect those to come online like pretty soon or?
I don't think there's going to be a rush on that. As it makes sense, sure. I mean, we're going to have those resources available to actually launch a market properly, which we've never really done. We just kind of like, yeah, we're here. It'll do what it does,
It's sure gun, right? Like
Yeah,
sure
exactly.
cannon.
Jeremy and I will show up, have a couple beers with people, and then, the market kind of sits there. And it's worked for what we are. But, to answer your question, I don't think there's going to be like a rush, like, oh, we need to open 10, tomorrow by any stretch. But I don't think we're going to be shy from it either. It's just if the right partner, the right fit, everything kind of lines up, we'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I think my only other question, and it may be very presumptuous, but obviously, like Gallo tends to do things with Barstool Sports. Are you guys talking to them? Are you the next Barstool Sports partner? Are you getting on one of those podcasts?
I mean, we haven't really talked about that at all, honestly. I mean, there might be some potential down there, but down that road. But I think we're going to kind of likely stick to what we've done in the past and just do more of it.
Yeah. Well, cool. Jay, you got anything else? This has been super fun. I mean, it's a really fun tie up. And I think it's kind of the future of Bevalk, right? With what Gallo is doing, with diversifying with guys like you, and of course Sazerac and Buzzball. It's interesting. The industry certainly taking notice. So fun times.
Well, we're excited. I think it's the partnership can be better. I mean, we align on so many fronts, and the opportunities that we present each other is super exciting. So, yeah, great things are to come for sure.
Yeah.
Something that I just wanted to ask based on Jen's last question, is there any like particular area like sports or some type of medium that you think that you've been wanting to get into but maybe didn't have the bandwidth or the funds? Is there any like one particular space that you're like, okay, let's go for it now?
I mean, we're going to take some time to really kind of figure that out. There's a lot of opportunity. We've started playing around a little bit with golf. I think there's a lot of synergies there. We're Jeremy and I, our roots are just outdoors in general. Whatever it may be, from skiing to biking to hanging out at a park. The outside spaces are really kind of what draws us. So finding ways to play in that kind of opens it up a little bit more will probably be our focus. Um, like, so finding things like golf or rec teams of any sort of shape or size, I think is kind of the fun way to go about it too. So, I mean, not take ourselves too seriously is kind of the goal, it's like that's with golf. Like there's, Seamus, our VP of marketing, has done some fun stuff with World Long Drive, which is kind of an aspect of golf that's a little bit more our wheelhouse than, the traditional, buttoned up polo kind of golf. So, I mean, I think we'll find ways that really fit who we are in some of those spaces, kind of the direction we'll be heading.
Awesome. I look forward to it. Well, that's all I got. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yep.
Always
We'll
a
pick
pleasure.
up some Montucky Cold snacks for the long Memorial Day weekend, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Absolutely.
should be a good one.
It should be. All right. Well, cheers and thank you for chatting, and all the best. We'll check in with you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
See you, man.